truth is finally here. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Top Gun Paintless Dent Repair Training. I'm Marty Runick, and today we're going to talk about how to properly use a heat gun. I had a good friend call me a couple of days ago and requesting a video on this because he was seeing some strange stuff out there, and it's the middle of November, and I've already seen 2 jobs where paint was damaged by techs using torches improperly. And we're going to discuss why I believe heat guns are far superior to torches. So let's get started. All right, now, first thing I want to talk about is I'm sure there's a lot of you advanced guys out there that have been using heat for years from a torch, and you say, you know what, I seldom if ever have any problems with it. I'm not going to drag my heat gun out and all this other stuff. Just too much of a bother. Well, first thing you got to realize is that just because you don't see the damage after the repair does not mean the paint isn't damaged. A very good example of that is something I saw last year. The customer swore when the tech did it, there was no problem whatsoever. And now you could see like a whitish, kind of a light, very light brown, milky brown streaks in the panel. I knew right away what that was because I've seen it so many times. Techs will take a torch and they'll start doing this through the panel, right, like that. Well, that's what's making those streaks in there. You say, well, why didn't they show up after the repair? Guys, it can take sometimes a full month, maybe sometimes a little more before you see this damage. It doesn't always show up right away. Now, if you go too hot, too fast, yes, it will. But just because it leaves looking good does not mean it's going to look good a month from now, guys. And if you want to prove this to yourself, get a scrap panel, use your torch, go like that, get a little hot. Okay, and maybe go right to where you just start sniffing a little bit. Take the heat off, let it cool, and then drag your fingernail into that damaged area really hard. Odds are you'll see clear or even paint come right out of that dent. All right, so this whole thing about, well, you know, you just need to stop before you smell burnt paint. Guys, if you're using your nose to gauge if you're damaging your paint or not, once you smell burnt paint, it's over. It doesn't matter if it looks like it or not, you've damaged the paint. All right. Now, the other thing that I really love about heat guns is the ability to keep that heat on the panel and focused on the panel, not the entire area, just the repair we're doing. I love the ability to focus the heat on that repair because hot metal expands, right? Well, as I'm picking up that dent, if I take the heat off and then start picking it up, the metal's starting to shrink. I don't want that. I want that expansion of that metal working for me. If I leave the heat on the panel and then do the repair, it gives me kind of an artificial metal memory. It helps each push to come up a little bit easier because that metal wants to expand. It's helping my repair. It's especially true on aluminum. Now, the other reason I like heat from a heat gun, I can get very, very accurate. I can get easily within 5 degrees of where I need to be. So if I want to get right up to the temperature to where I could start damaging paint in a few minutes, I can easily control that. We're going to show you how to calibrate your heat gun in just a few minutes. But I can control that precisely with my heat, so I never have to worry about any damage at all. So you guys that are doing retail, I highly recommend you use heat. I know some of you wholesale techs are thinking, well, you know, it's going to be off the lot by then. Why should I care? I don't know what to say about that, but you know, if you care about your work and you want to make sure that you're not damaging your paint, guys, heat gun really is the way to go. All right, let's talk about how to actually do this, how to calibrate your gun. Now, the heat gun that I like using is from Ultradent. It's got this fiberglass arm here. It's a bulletproof way to do this. I've dropped this thing several times and didn't damage it in the least. It's, like I said, it's probably bulletproof. This works really good on horizontal panels. Also works good on vertical panels, but I've got another one that I prefer for that I'll show you in a few minutes. So let's talk about how to calibrate our heat gun. First thing you want to do, just make a small dent in the panel in an open area, all right? And it's very, very important to do everything consistently. If you do everything consistently, you'll get the same results every time. So we're going to put the heat gun about 4 finger widths off the panel. Okay, 3 to 4 fingers off the panel every time. All right. And then what we're going to do is grab a infrared thermometer. All right. And what we're going to do is to calibrate our heat gun. You know, just pick whatever temperature you want. I like, you know, right around 180, 190 because it gives me a good safety margin there. I'm not messing the paint up. So let's say you want to calibrate it for 190. Put your heat gun up there. Take a guess, you know, at it. Put it up a couple notches. Let it heat up for a couple of minutes, and then you don't want to take your temperature like this on top, because the turbulent air can throw this reading up by about 20 degrees sometimes. You want to go underneath the panel, right under the center of the dent you made there. Take your reading there, all right? So let's say there was a little, maybe 160. Turn the heat gun up a little bit more, wait about another minute, take another reading. All right, if it's 190, that's good. Take a felt tip pen, put a mark there, you're good to go. Now, if you want a few other more temperatures, feel free to put them on there, but what's nice about this now is your heat gun's calibrated, you put it on that mark, wait a minute or two, boom, you're done. And that's all it takes is about a minute, guys. It doesn't take very long. So that's how we calibrate our heat gun, guys, and of course you do the same thing on a vertical panel. All right, this is that same heat gun you set up on a vertical panel now. Works exactly the same way. Keep the same distance away from the panel. Pretty much out of the way, very, very stable heat. And this setup is from Ultradent Tools. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best one out there, at least for right now. And this is another Ultradent setup. And what I like about this versus the last one is it's completely out of the way. Nothing's attached to the door. I'll use this, especially on large dent repairs. Get a little bit further back than that, of course. But I love the fact that it's even more out of the way than the other one. And also, of course, you don't have to worry about your heat gun falling off the door. There's no suction cup. Very, very stable setup. Okay, these are two typical torch setups. Now, again, one of the other things I don't like about this is you have just far too concentrated heat at those tips. Heat gun is much more broader heat. That's far too concentrated. Right at that tip, it's a very, very wide temperature variation between the center of that tip and even an inch out from that. So you have a very focused area of heat. And even if you hold it back, guys, it can get away from you much, much faster because of that fact that it is so focused at that tip. Now, you hear a lot of old timers say, nah, just keep it moving and you'll be fine. And that's true if you have it far enough away from the dent. But the other thing I like with the heat gun is I can get much closer to that point where the paint could be damaged within 10 to 15 degrees if I needed to than I ever can with this torch. And you say, well, so what, another 30, 40 degrees? That can make a difference, guys, especially on a really sharp dent, a sharp crease. That can very definitely make a difference. And I power my heat gun with a Honda 1000-watt generator. Very small, very reliable, very quiet. If you're a mobile tech, I think this is a must-have tool. Lots of other uses for it besides just powering a heat gun. Okay, a couple other quick things. As far as the battery-powered heat guns go, I'm not a huge fan. Seems like there's just too many issues that techs are having with those. The other thing is, guys, I'm not saying don't ever use a torch. I understand this is the real world, and if you're a wholesale guy, you got 50 dents to do in the next 20 minutes. Yeah, you're going to go ahead and heat it up. And if that's all you're concerned about is not cracking the paint, that's okay. But a lot of you guys are doing some pretty nasty stretch stuff, body line dents, stuff like that. Those respond so much better to constant heat. They really do. Torching that up will prevent the paint from cracking as long as you don't over torch it. But when you have that heat on constantly, fellas, that really does give you a form of artificial memory. You can actually see in the bottom of your reflection, if you're looking for it, you can see the metal gather up about maybe 20% better when you heat it up to about 180, 190 than you would when you're doing it cold. Not a huge difference, but when you're doing some major stuff or complex stuff, to me, it more than makes the difference. So anyway, I hope you learned something, and don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. See you next time.